What's up, everybody? I'm Jamal.
And I'm Brandon, and this is The Way We Ball.
All right, Brandon, I'm triggered. You're gonna be unfiltered because I'm pissed off. Just kidding. It's already been a week almost. Time has gone down. But man, what a boring game. Did you have anything you wanted to bring up with that game? Because I'm already over it. I'm already looking forward to Dallas.
We'll bring it up whenever we get to the wheel of topics, but for the most part, you're exactly right. Holy boring, dude. That was a painful watch, especially for how packed that crowd was, but it is what it is.
I feel like we always do this to ourselves. It's like whenever something good happens, we have to negate it with something bad. And of course, we get a packed stadium, which beating a dead horse, I just hate the East End, how it looks empty. But it was packed and we didn't show up.
We just didn't finish, but like I said, we'll deeper dive when we get to it.
Yeah, so you kind of hinted at it. We decided, since it was such a boring game, that we're not going to ball like we see it because there was nothing to see. There was nothing to talk about. So we're going to introduce our wheel of topics, where we just spin the wheel of topics, and cover whatever topic the wheel decides. Brandon or producer Shay, why don't you show the people on YouTube the beautiful wheel?
While he's bringing up the wheel, I will tell everybody what are the topics on said wheel. So as you can see, looks fantastic. So on the wheel here, we have ATX takeaways. We'll do a deep dive on the game there. We'll have one where it's time to change the formation. And then why do we refuse to sign any kind of striker? And then finally, the last one, the new signings, Jefferson Valverde and Mackenzie Gaines. We'll talk about them as well. So producer Shay, let's see what first topic is. Great looking wheel. The little noises, the works. All right, first one where it landed on. Changing formation. And for the audience there, that is a fireworks show from the wheel there. So changing the formation here. We've gone with this false nine concept here. We've had Seba Kowalczyk up at the top there. It seems to kind of be a Band-Aid for what really needs stitches. When we brought Seba on Ferreira, it looked very lost. Jamal, is it time that we start to look at changing up this formation to try to get more goals, or at least more of an attack?
Yeah, so there was that piece that that we had shared last week where Coach Olson talked about being able to adapt in this league and working with the players that you have. If Sebas indeed is your number 9, you're going to have to fix that. You're going to have to change that formation a bit. I don't know if you change the 4-3-3 exactly, but I don't know if a center forward is truly what you need, or if a false 9, excuse me. So like the thing with Sebas that I do like is that if you saw, as soon as he came on, he was aggressive. He was asking for the ball. He wanted the ball. And it seems like we're always complaining that our guys just don't want to shoot it. Well, it looks like we have that with Sebas. He's just never in the position to shoot it. It's tough for him to get the ball. And granted, he's not making the best runs, so it's not like this isn't his fault. He's adding to his own demise. But I do like that he's aggressive. He's asking for the ball. He wants it, and that's what you want in a striker. Now, what Ben has to do is figure out how to get him the ball to where he can get those shots out. Because the false 9, it's not happening.
I think if you look at last game, it wasn't so much that we didn't have shots. We had plenty of shots. It was just all straight at the goalkeeper, and it was really, really easy saves. We had a good attack. We just couldn't finish. To me, it might be something to look at where maybe we go the very boring, old-fashioned 4-4-2. I know that is a formation that is long dead, but for how we play and the kind of the style that we need, maybe 2 strikers up top running around would be better for what we do. I just think I love our style of play, but the lack of finishing is frustrating, and I think that is for everybody. But we do need to keep kind of perspective here. We had an opportunity to go the top of the conference in that game last night, in that game against Austin. We just lost and blew it. So is it time to completely blow it up? No, but at the same time, I don't know. I wouldn't be upset if we tried something in the meantime until we can get a reliable 9.
So controversial take here, but I know we were excited about Aleyu on the wing. He just went back to his old ways. It was like all the progress we made just went down the drain. I would love to see a starting nine or a starting 11, excuse me, where you have Kowalczyk, Bossy in there instead of Aleu, and then of course Coco on the other side with Sebas up top. I think that's the group that has the creativity, and then you have that finishing piece up top. Because I'm over Aleu, man. Like he had that one shot that went straight to the keeper, and yeah, it just seemed like he reverted back to his old ways. And so I would love to see him start on the bench, put Kowalczyk on that side, or I'm sorry, I'd put Kowalczyk in the middle, Bossy on the left, Coco on the right, and then Sebas up top by himself, just there to poach. What are your thoughts on that?
I like the idea of just allowing Sebas to poach. He's not a guy that can really run back and play defense. And for us to try to lie and make him into that, it's a bit tough. I would say play to his strengths. I think that's a cool concept, especially with your three behind him, because they are really ball creative. And so that would allow Sebas to kind of roam a bit more free. And then it allows Artur and Ache to play in the back and just kind of play like point guards, right? So that is an awesome concept. Aliu, I'm not so out on. I think as a 23, soon, what is he, 23 years old now? Striker, he's been progressing every step of the way. Yeah, it's frustrating because his finishing isn't quite there, but that's what you expect from a young player. They're not going to be completely polished. Give that guy more time, more opportunities. I think he'll be a better overall player. He is stronger out there on the wing, but yeah, his crossing abilities and stuff like that does hinder him. So I'm here for changing up the formation a little bit, but I also understand that that is a big part of our success. So might be a little bit too early to hit the panic.
I don't, and I should rephrase that. I'm not done with him. I'd like to see him come in as a sub, as opposed to starting. I'd love to see the creation of Coco, Seba, um, and Bossy with like we said, Sebas up top. I feel like we're getting a little confusing here with the Seba and Sebas, um, but yeah, I mean, I think you do need a change. And again, it came from Ben himself. He said that, in this league, you have to adapt, and we're not scoring. I think the defensive line is stout. I think no matter what you throw back there, Mikael and Bartlow have a good thing going. So I think it's time to get creative up top, especially when you're playing a team like Dallas, who isn't the strongest right now. I don't think we have any other cup competition games coming up after until Leagues Cup. So I feel like now's the time where you get creative with these formations.
Not a bad call. I like it. All right, producer Shay, let's bring up the wheel. Let's go to another topic here. The wheel, producing good topics already right off the bat, baby. And also, for those that are watching, my new studio, fantastic. All right, round and around the wheel goes here. And we are going to land on the front office here. So, why does it seem like the front office refused to sign any kind of striker? Not necessarily a DP, not necessarily a Sebas Ferreira replacement, but even just a flyer on a guy. It does not seem like they're interested in doing that. What do you think the reason might be?
As president of the Pat on Set Hate Club, I couldn't tell you. We alluded to it earlier this year. There are rumors of rule changes happening. The optimist in me is hoping that he's saving the big money for a I don't want to say a big name striker, but a decent striker. So I'm hoping that he's aware of the changes that are happening and he's thinking ahead. And rather than just sign somebody now and digging ourselves into a hole, he's saving that cash for a striker that could help us out essentially immediately in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, I'd understand that take. I also just think that with Ferreira, he's willing to die on that hill. Like, I mean, you can say yes, Seba, since he's returned, he's only been healthy for what, 2 games? So I understand that we can't completely write him off, but I just find it odd that he's hitching his wagon to this in a very stubborn way. Like, we brought in Nepo Baby and Gabe Segal, and he's been fine. Aliu hasn't developed into the striker that necessarily we need at this moment, although give it more time. And then Sebas has just been made of glass. So, like, it's been really tough to get that going. So, I I'm just surprised we didn't try to get
Yeah, and we haven't heard anything. And I laugh at like some of the. I don't want to call them troll accounts because I think they're like actual accounts, but somebody like already mocked what Mendelssohn's gonna say once we sign Gaines, and it's like like he had it to the T of exactly the way Mendelssohn uh, makes his tweets once we sign somebody. But it's like we're getting that same message over and over again: depth piece, cheap, like contract friendly, and it's like okay, that's great and that's good again as dev pieces, but we need that that game changer. And I mean, we haven't gotten it since Seba, maybe I would say.
Gotcha. I know. I agree. All right, producer Shay, let's bring up the wheel. We got two more to go here. As he's bringing up this topic, we got still haven't even got to ATX yet or the new signings. Exciting time. So round and around the wheel goes here. And all right, the Austin game. So
Just,
let's get to the boring. We mentioned it here that it was boring as all can be, but I've alluded to the fact that we had some strong attempts on goal. The problem was it was just straight at the keeper, but overall, a very frustrating game. I predicted that this was going to be a goal scoring fest. It wasn't. You said it was going to be kind of a 1-0 or possibly even 2-0. So you were right on the money for that one. But I think it was also an opportunity that it should have been a goal fest. It just wasn't. And then again, big frustration, giving up an 87th minute goal. Like, I'm tired of this team giving up late winners. As great as our defense is, how is that a thing that has been plaguing us for quite a while now?
yeah, and it was years past where that was just our we were cursed with getting that late goal scored upon us, and I felt like we were doing a much better job from preventing that of happening. But yeah, that one burned, and it PTSD came back, and it felt like old Dynamo again. But that's the most frustrating thing is that we dominated the game. We had possession. We were creating chances. We were taking chances, but the chances went right into the keeper's hands, and those are the most frustrating. Is that like if a true nine, if Buanga was taking that shot instead of Aleu, that's going in. And so it's just like you said. I mean, we made him look like an all star. We made Austin look like they had the greatest keeper since Oliver Kahn. But it was just straight to him, man. And that was the most frustrating thing. And then for them to score the way they did, everyone just flat footed in a packed house when we were expecting to take the win. We're talking so much trash. We're so high up on the table. They're so low. And now we're what, like two places from one another. Um, yeah, it was just one of the more frustrating games I can recall.
The West is always going to be 2 through 11 is going to be separated by like 4 points. You know what I mean? So there's such a high fluctuation rate. What's frustrating about this one is not only was it a packed house, yes, it was against an in-state rival, but this is a game that we should have won. And we have come away and where we snuck away at Colorado and we also snuck away at Minnesota, where it's hard to get 3 points on the road. And when you can get them in that fashion, you have to capitalize. And when we're playing at home against an Austin team that I truly think is going to be middle of the road this year, you got to come away with at least 1 point. 1 point would have felt like a loss in my eyes, but it's better than what actually happened here. And now that we're trekking on going to Dallas, like it just feels like we're in a trap game mode here. And we cannot fall into this trap here. If we can keep our head above water, because this team looked dead. And even when Ache came in, there was a little bit more of a lift, but it just, I don't know. That was a very frustrating game to watch overall. Like I have so many mixed emotions about it, to be honest with you.
The frustrating thing with Aji coming on was that there was a shift in the momentum for sure, but then it was just sloppy up top. It felt like the forwards didn't know where to go, what to do, especially with Sebas coming on. The guy was just lost. And again, I like that he was aggressive. He was calling for the ball. You saw him frustrated. He wasn't getting the ball, but he wasn't making like there was one occurrence, and I wish I would have timestamped it where he's running right next to Seba, and it's just like dude, what do you like? So I just think The positive in me is that those problems, like, you can't teach a striker to be aggressive and to want to shoot. Like, that's just something you have in you. Luckily, we have that. I think now it's just detailing those finer pieces, getting them on the same page with one another, getting everyone comfortable with one another. So there is reason to be optimistic, I want to say.
And I'm also going to piggyback on what every fan watching and also probably breaking this game down. The refs were insanely frustrating. The fouls were just outrageous. Like, honestly, I know the joke is I miss the scab referees. I kind of miss the scab referees. I felt like they at least had more of a sense of a flow to the game. Like, even though they had a call here or there, but for a lot of the times they just kind of either let them play or they were pretty strict about it. The ref in this game was just wild with the calls, man. Like, it just seemed like if you fell down, you were getting a whistle. And then all of a sudden, 8 people fell down, and just let them go. Like, it was just kind of just whatever the whim was that day.
I
But
mean,
and it also
it's,
started early. It was to see everybody get really pissed after our tour got elbowed in the face, and then we just got dirty, man. Like, that was. I know that's like usually not what you want to see. I'm here for it, man. That team not taking that was pretty cool.
so that kind of got me thinking. Our tour hit. If those new rules weren't implemented, does he stay down a little bit longer and milk it, or was he getting up to because of the new rules?
It's a good call. It's a great shout. We kind of talked about there that there was a little bit leniency for the referee to kind of make some dictation there. That to me was he was down long enough that where was VAR? Why didn't VAR come into play here? And with VAR, it's not like it needs to happen immediately. We can go back to something that happened minutes and 5 minutes ago. So I was really confused at how that didn't even get a look or a talk in the earpiece from the ref. So that's what I'm saying. There was very odd officiating in that, but the officiating is not what cost us the game. They were just a frustration and a headache to the game.
Yeah, on top of that, I did like the fact though that we got to see immediately firsthand how these rule changes can benefit us because we were on the opposite side where we needed to score a goal. Austin was going to try to milk the clock, and it's like, well, not anymore, not with these rule changes. So I'm sure there's going to be a time where we're going to be on the other side. Like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, we need to kill some clock. So I like the rule. I think 2 minutes is a good enough amount. I was just kind of curious that like Sviatchenko a few weeks back that he got the red, or he helped get the red for somebody. Um, I wonder if Artur would have milked that because he's a vet, right? Like he knows the tricks of the trade. I don't know in the back of his head if maybe the team had a talk like, hey, don't forget we had this new rule implemented, so let's not milk it if it's not that bad. But it looked bad, man. I mean, I think he was kind of red on the face.
And it was also like the first like 30 seconds of the game. So that I think that was another reason why he didn't really milk it was because it was just like, dude, we just started. Like, what are you going to do? Be down already? Like, so I just, again, VAR needs to step up if that's going to be the role there. I think that's the big takeaway. And they let us down. So that whole game was a letdown.
I
All right,
think they'll
producer Shay, you don't
never.
need to bring up the wheel. Go ahead.
No, yeah. Well, we have one topic left, and I know the refs will never admit it, but I always feel like in their head they're like, 30 seconds in, it's a little too early to dictate the game like this, So that's just a conspiracy in me. But alrighty, what was that last topic? I don't recall.
So we have, boy, thank you for spinning the wheel. I'm so happy you did that. The new signings here. So Dynamo did some maneuvers here. We brought in Jefferson Valverde, who seems to be a replacement of core in terms of really young. I think he's around like 24 to 26 range. And then Mackenzie Gaines, a winger that seems to be played with kind of the similarities of strong ability to kind of push the ball forward but can't score. Um, in this case, I guess the bigger question for you, they seem to be, as you alluded to it earlier, depth pieces, right? So I guess the question I'm going to ask you is, what do they need to do for you in your eyes to say, okay, those were successful signings?
Well, Valverde already has a cool nickname that I'm surprised nobody on like the Twitter sphere is talking about. So he's El Gato. I was looking at his highlights. He's El Gato with his club team. And the last time we had a cat inspired
Like,
nickname, the guy was a legend, a Houston legend. So it's promising already. From Panterita to El Gato, I think there's something there. It's tough, right? Like it's tough to call what would conclude these signings to be successful. I do like the idea of gains. I do like a speed winger that you can throw in late game to burn some people when they're already tired. I do like that idea. I do like the idea that we're not relying on him to score. I think Dynamo past, we'd always sign these guys, and we'd hope that they would do, above what they're typically known for. Um, so I do like these signings. I do like them as depth pieces, and I like the fact that they're being marketed as depth pieces. They're not trying to lie to us and oversell what these guys truly are. I'm more excited, and I know it's not going to be the sexy signing, but I'm really excited about Valverde or El Gato. I'm part of the problem. I should start calling him by his nickname. I'm really excited about El Gato. I just love those South American players, man. Those South American defensive midfielders, those guys are nuts. Like, I think he's going to be an Escobar on the number 6. So I'm excited to see what we see from him. And look, Gaines is a Texas boy. Maybe coming back home will ignite something for him. Maybe we get a Dorsey 2.0 where he just plays out of his mind. And speaking of Dorsey, that's someone we let off the hook this episode because if I'm not completely off the Dorsey train, I'm already looking for the next stop.
I'll give him time. Once everybody's healthy, then I'll really start to judge Dorsey a little bit more. Now, talking about the two new guys, Valverde, I like the fact that because it's hard to find like statistics on a guy who's been playing in the Ecuadorian league. I'm sorry, I haven't been signing up for my league pass just anytime soon. But what I have noticed, he starts a lot of the games, so that's a good signing to see that like he's not just some bench player that's headed over to us. You know what I mean? Like this is a real starter that we're taking away that can obviously rest legs for Artur, Ache, etc. Right? So I think that's an awesome piece. The fact that he's young too allows him to grow into this role, and not only that, into this league. Here for all that. Mackenzie Gaines is an interesting one because, like you alluded to, I appreciate that he's a winger that has good speed, and he's not necessarily like, oh, hey, we need this guy to score 10 goals. That's not what we're really bringing him in here. We're kind of trying to be, pushing that tempo a little bit. So I think adding him in there with that tempo could be interesting for Dorsey. Now, what makes them successful signings? Gaines is interesting because I feel like he just hasn't really had an opportunity to play and start somewhere. So give it some time and let him really take off here. Maybe, like you said, coming home does help him out. Valverde, what will make him successful? Just giving them resting minutes. The only thing I don't like about this signing is what are we saying about Brooklyn Reigns? Because if Brooklyn Reigns isn't good enough just to give somebody rest, then why is he here? Because I find that a little bit concerning. Because to me, that's all Valverde's role is. So I would have liked to see that a little bit different. But El Gato, you sold me on that. So the fact that his nickname is El Gato already has me saying we can never sell this guy, and let's put his name in the rafters. But I don't know. To make them successful, can they give actual resting minutes while not looking like it's a gaping hole?
I mean, the other piece to this that makes it already successful before he's even stepped foot in Shell is the fact that we don't have to see Brad Smith playing a left wing anymore. If we can keep him away from the upper third, success in my book already. Stamp it as a success because I like him. I like him as a left back. Every other game where he can come in and, like you said, rest legs, but as an attacking piece, no me gusta.
Yeah, Brad has definitely done the best job in terms of crossing the ball into the box, like at least doing the best attempts of that on the season. But he just has so many moments where when he's on, he's great, but he does not have enough moments where he's on. I would like to see him back in his natural like left back position. That would be an awesome, again, bigger depth piece. So I'm here for that. But overall, it's looking pretty good. So we'll see. It closed yesterday, so no more signings now. We're gonna have to wait for that big guy to come through later on.
I'm optimistic about the summer. Let's see. Well, Brandon, we're going to go from predicting our future signings to predicting our next game. Let's look into our crystal ball and give our thoughts on Houston at FC Dallas.
Through Frisco, they're bottom of the table for a reason. Jesus Ferreira has not been playing. I mean, he's been injured, so I know last game he was like looking like he might come back. So maybe he does come back officially against us. It would make sense if you're FC Dallas to kind of bring back your big guy in a really big match. I'm done thinking that this is going to be the game where we open up goal scoring. I just don't think we're that team. I think we are forever 2-1 or 1-0. In all honesty, I'm going to start betting that going forward here for all of our scores to just never be over 2-1 or 1-0 because that's who we are. So I expect us to win. I think FC Dallas has a lot of gaping holes. Their defense is not very good. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of put on a heavy press, to own possession. And I think to sneak away from 3 points here in Frisco would be huge. So I'm going to go with a 2-1 win.
I'm gonna go with a 1-0 win. Like you said, that team just Ferreira's the face of that team, the heartbeat of that team, and they're lost without him. And even if he were to come back, I don't think kind of what we dealt with Ache, it's going to take them a while for them to get the Ferreira, especially when you're an attacker, because there's just so much going on, whether it's mentally. A lot comes into play for your scoring piece. So I'm predicting a 1-0 win Dynamo. Is it just me, or does this derby, if you want to, I don't know if you call it derby or classico, where you lean in the soccer world, but does this Texas derby not feel as intense as years past, or is it just because we just finished this Austin game?
I was thinking the same thing. Like, it doesn't feel as hyped for us going into Frisco. It also didn't feel that hyped with Austin. And I think it's just because, ironically, right now, they're not really in our class. Like, the bigger matches for us are going to be Sporting KC, LAFC, Galaxy right now. And that's kind of a privilege. Doesn't mean we should write these teams off. I mean, look what Austin just did to us. But I'm with you. There doesn't seem to be that same kind of hatred and fire being spewed right now. It seems like, oh yeah, we're about to go to Frisco. Maybe game of, we all get heated and fired up. But I'm with you. It doesn't seem that same passion.
I don't know. I feel like there's a split amongst fans. I feel like the diehard, the guys who were at Robertson back in the day, to them, FC Dallas, that's the big game. I feel like the guys who are barely getting into the Dynamo, or the newer fans, Austin is the big game for them. Have you gotten that feedback, or is that just me?
You're probably right, because Austin was the hot new thing, and not only did they come into this league, they had success immediately. So it allowed people to jump on that bandwagon really quickly. And I think you're exactly right. The new fan thinks that they're kind of the cream of the crop, not really knowing Frisco's history of developing players and really being our main rival. I'm like the old heads. I get up for Frisco more than I will Austin. To me, Austin's just they're the little brother. They're the age gapped brother. You know what I mean? Where you're like, yeah, I just, I don't really know them that well because there's 30 years apart. So I just feel like it will take time for Austin to be a real thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was very weird, and maybe again it's because we're going Texas team to Texas team. I just felt like the hype isn't what we're used to when it comes to Dallas. But alrighty, Brandon. Well, let's go ahead.
Before we move on, I cannot believe we haven't mentioned this. The Surge Tifo looked fantastic, by the way, with the Fox's eyes. Great work by all those guys. I cannot believe we haven't mentioned that yet when we took the takeaway there. That looked sick, being dropped down from the like seeing it on all the socials from far away. I thought they did a really good job making that art come alive.
I haven't mentioned it for a reason because we'll be talking about it here in the next few minutes. But alrighty, Brandon, let's get out of Texas. Let's get our passports and let's go balling around the globe, where we take a soccer story from somewhere in the world and bring it to you, the way we ball listeners. Producer Shay,
balling around the globe.
Echo and all, perfect. All right, Brandon, I'll start it off. This week takes us to Italy, and let's talk tifos. So the inspiration behind this story was what we saw with the Surge. It was beautiful, well made. The Fox's eyes. I know it's a reference, I want to say, to an anime, but I'm a Dragon Ball Z guy, so you lose me if it's not Dragon Ball Z. But we had a war of the tifos. So this past week in Italy, Verona played Napoli. Verona fans, and I'll just read you the tweet. Verona fans welcomed Napoli fans, whom they don't consider Italian, with a "Welcome to Italy" banner. The Neapolitans replied the next time they met with "Juliet is a whore" banner. Romeo and Juliet takes place in Verona. Years later, Verona fans with the banner responded, and that's what you're seeing here. This was the recent one. Neapolitans, children of Juliet. Juliet the whore. Brandon, I look forward to the day where we put our fist. I look forward to the day. Shows I'm reconnecting. I look forward to the day where we put our fist down and we battle it out through tifos.
Dude, I'm with you on that. And also, very clever. Like, those are some bars for tifos, man. Like, that is sick. Very good job on their part. And I'm with you. I think that's the best way for a crowd to talk smack, like, to each other. Besides, like, literally, like, the whole fighting, like thing like that. Like, you could go that route. But to me, that's not clever. That is real smack talk.
Oh man, that's awesome because it's like it gets shared. There's engagement. Like if we could build up like this Tifo war, I'd be all for it. Like that, I just love that. I loved like it was clever, right? The clapbacks were clever for each other. There was connotation to like each city and their cultures and the history of each city. Like right now we're dealing that with the Texans, right? With the Texans and Titans and fighting over the H Town Blue. Like there's so much stuff that we can go over Austin or over Dallas with and just go each other back and forth with these tifos that maybe just our two fans would understand, but that's what you want, right? That's more than enough. Like so yeah, I loved it, man. That story cracked me up and I was like, man, how fitting after the surge dropped that beautiful tifo. And man, that thing looked great. I know they had been tweeting and posting that they were working on it. That thing seems like a blast, man. Get with your buddies and then you make a work of art like that. Put it in the Louvre.
Yeah, dude, for real. That one looked really, really good. And it was awesome to get the history. I think one of our most underrated episodes was our TIFO episode, to be honest with you. Like, that was like the biggest learning experience that I've gone through. And then seeing them working on it, it just allowed me to feel like I was there and I knew the process. So I hope more fans turn out to take part in it. And like you said, what's fun about TIFOs between fans, for you to understand the TIFO, you got to understand what is being said. It allows you to be on the inside of the joke, per se, when you start to get involved. So hopefully more people do that. They understand the TIFO wars and it can take off. I'm with you on that one, man. All right, brother. Mine is going to be quite funny. So for mine here, we get our passport, and I believe we're going to England here. So first, as always, Jamal, I start with a question for you. Jamal, when you think of a game that had horrible weather, what's a famous game that you think of with horrible weather?
Oh man, USA Costa Rica snow game.
So exactly right. Most people would go, either like ice, heavy rain. You think of the Ice Bowl between Green Bay back in the day, the frozen tundra, or heavy rain. But in this case, we get all fogged up. Arsenal played a friendly against Dynamo Moscow in a heavy fog in 1945 at White Hart Lane. And despite the urging of players to suspend play due to the fog, the referee decided that play should continue. The fog was so thick that the game turned into an absolute farce, with both sides playing by their own set of rules and suffering their own bad luck because of the weather. Moscow at one point made a substitution, but didn't take a player off, with fans watching the match believing that the Russian club had up to 15 players on the pitch at one time. Arsenal also made the best of the conditions, with one of their players who had earlier been sent off. Well, he snuck back onto the pitch and started playing the remainder of the game. However, Arsenal did suffer some bad luck, with their goalkeeper knocking himself out cold after running into the goalpost, which of course he could not see due to the fog. But don't worry, a spectator reportedly took his place in goal and the match continued.
God.
So talk about insane luck there.
Do you have a timestamp or a year on that?
1945.
Oh, well, that explains.
Yeah, you can see producer had a picture of it up there, but like it's insane. It's just a white wall of fog,
Yeah.
and up to 15 players. The goalkeeper getting knocked out, and I love how a fan jumped in and they're like, "All right, play on."
That's like at a certain point, like the games aren't even enjoyable. Not with fog, but like weather in general. Like at a certain that's just absurd. But I feel like that's something that would only happen like 40s and 50s.
100%. But at the same time, I just love how bad that weather is, and the referee. What was he doing that he's like, yeah, I'm not coming back here a second time. We're getting this game over with now.
That might have been it. He was like, screw this. I'm done here.
It's like, I got a boat to catch, dude. I'm not coming back. I dude, it's sad. Let's move on to our last one here. We're going to start to go into ball in, ball out, where we take a topic, and if we're for it, we're ball in. If we're against it, we're ball out. I'm in. Everybody for that sound.
I think it's longer and longer each
Maybe.
week.
Ball in or ball out?
There he is. Okay. First one. La Liga has announced that they're going to play regular season matches in the USA. Are you ball in or ball out on that?
I am ball out. Go back to wherever the hell you came from. I got my suspenders on. I'm pissed. Now, look, like, I think MLS has this uphill battle where the EPL snobs here in the US, the European snobs, see it as like a lesser product. Now you're going to have this at their dispense too. I don't see this helping American soccer, MLS. I think it's going to hurt more than it helps. Let's say there's that fan who's a Barcelona fan where he would normally spend his money at the Shell and go see the Dynamo, where he's going to save that cash and go see Barcelona or whoever they bring to the US. I don't like it. I don't see how that helps grow our game. I would like to see the USL Championship grow. I'd like to see the third divisions grow. I'd like to see the smaller soccer clubs in the US system grow. Bringing in what's already an empire here doesn't help us, I don't think. So I am ball out on this.
I am right with you on this. Ball out completely. This would be a different aspect if we were talking about like, hey, they're going to bring Champions League games here or a Champions League final here. Okay, I can see that, how that is going to grow here in this. But with the challenging league here, no way. Like, I don't understand. And how many games is that going up? Because you're exactly right. The fan that would have spent his money here is going to save up for a game to go see his favorite club that he watches on television. I cannot believe the MLS is allowing it, or at least to where the MLS didn't work out a deal to where we get to go over there and play, whether we're playing their youth academies, whatever, but grow your jersey sales in Spain or whatever it is to expand your brand and get everybody under this umbrella. Completely ball out. I think the MLS is a joke for allowing this in their backyard. I don't understand, again, how this benefits them one bit unless these La Liga teams are playing in, say, the Shell and we get that revenue. Then, okay, now I start to understand it a bit more. But that's not how it's going to be. They're going to go play in SoFi or AT&T, and it's going to be just a joke. And who's that money going to? Nobody in the MLS. How does this help us grow? It doesn't. All out.
The frustrating thing too is like, well, for one thing, the snob, right? Like you're gonna have those European snobs that like, oh, this is the soccer that I love. This is the soccer that I can only watch. This and that. There's that, right? But again, like MLS is so strict with USL. They're so strict with NISA, with NPSL. Like they have these radius rules where if there's a club owned within a certain radius, you can't have another club. And look what happens when you have MLS that goes into a USL market. Look at San Diego. Look at Austin, right down the street. Austin Bold no longer exists. San Diego Loyal no longer exists. Every time MLS strongholds, they get what they want. How are you letting this happen from a league overseas, one, but two, it's going to take your revenue. USL is not going to take the revenue that La Liga is going to take from you. It makes no sense. And it's like, look, if you want to be the big bully, that's fine because it's, it's American consumerism. I get it. And it's cutthroat out there. But if you're going to be the big bully, maintain that and be a big bully when you have these outsiders coming in. I don't like this. It's going to be a money grab, but it's not going to be for anything that we're going to benefit from. It's going to be a money grab for somebody else, and we're not going to really see the benefits of all that.
I can't wait. My season gift next year is a discounted price to those tickets to go watch some two teams that I don't care to see play. Like it's just, you're exactly right. It is a money grab, but not the right kind of money grab. One thing I want to piggyback off here, this isn't really so much a ball in, ball out for this one, but the FIFA World Club Cup is coming to Apple. In this case, are you kind of ball in, ball out for that? Because for me, I think this is an interesting thing if it comes with our MLS subscription already. If I'm having to pay an extra amount to acquire this, not here for it. I wish Apple had a bigger investment in what the MLS is and starting to invest more into the USL. Things that are around here, grow America's game, man.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Club World Cup being there, but again, if it's an added benefit, I'm not going to pay an extra Like, look, for the soccer fans, you're paying for Paramount. If you want all the teams, you're paying for Paramount, Peacock, ESPN Plus, and Apple now with MLS. That's to get you the domestic leagues, Italian leagues, EPL, Spanish leagues, South American leagues. Like, we don't need another. It's gotten to the point where streaming is more expensive than cable was. And I mean, I
Easily.
would like the idea if like Apple were to really hone, like, hey, we're the soccer network. Like, if you want to see soccer, come to us. And maybe that's a step you take, but yeah, not if it's going to come at an extra cost. And I'd much rather what they're doing with MLS. Why don't you do that to USL? We talked about it last week where they drew numbers on the CBS, and they're going to do it again. New Mexico's playing this weekend on CBS, and I'm going to tune in. My old boss is the president out there, so I gotta help him, support him. Excuse me, but yeah, like Apple invest in domestic rather than all this other stuff.
I agree. I wish they would just encompass all of American soccer and start to grow that here. I think that is the biggest money pot yet to be exploited. If you can get all those leagues to be just as big or on par as overseas, that is going to be a cash cow. And you do that by bringing up the USL, by investing more into the MLS and just making it a better product. You can start to see a shift in the players starting to come here at younger ages. Let's keep that momentum going. Spending $1 billion on this too for this coverage, I think it's interesting. I just fear that $1 billion is going to make my MLS package go up in the future. And that's where I'm starting to worry about, like, okay, are you pricing me out of my own league now to show me games I could care less about? I am a little bit worried about that one.
I think it's going to get to a point where your season ticket gets you a discounted rate to Apple TV rather than the free Apple or MLS Pass.
You're not wrong, man. I think that definitely headed that way, and it's sad to see. All right, producer Shay, hit the next one.
Ballin or ball out?
So right now, would you take Corey Baird over Sebas Ferreira?
Ball out. I'm still a Sebas guy.
Oh my God! What? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, right. And what has made you feel like that is a appropriate guy to keep right now?
I mean, it's only been 2 games, and he's not fully healthy yet. And I like what we've seen from Seba. That I want to see that. I want to see that project work together. I want to see Bossy, Seba, and Coco with Sebas. I think we saw what we could get out of Baird. I think we saw the best of Baird. I don't think we've seen the best of Sebas. So Olsen said he's a coach that can adapt and work with what we have. So I'm still Sebas over Baird for sure.
You just said it yourself. It's only been 2 games. And it hasn't been 2 games because he's not playing well. He can't stay healthy and stay on the pitch at all. Corey never went out with an injury. And on top of that, at least as frustrating as he was, he could make those up and down runs, and it allowed for a little bit more pressure. We just talked about when Sebas was subbed on in the Austin game, he looks absolutely lost out there. There really is no strong formation for him. I think another year with Corey and this squad would have benefited him tremendously. As much as I would like to say that I think Sebas Ferreira is definitely the better striker, but in terms of who's better for this team, it's Corey Baird. And I think we're drastically missing him right now. I have no idea how he's doing in Cincinnati. Haven't looked him up once.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the train of thought where I think if we would have kept him, he would have been having a Dorsey moment. I think him and Dorsey played out of their minds last year. I think he would have fallen back a little bit. I mean, and of course, I'm not the biggest fan, so I'm probably not. I'm very biased in that, but I think we saw the pinnacle of what there is to see with Baird, and I don't think it gets any better. And we saw that we need better all across the board, not just from Baird, but we're good. We're not Columbus good yet. We're not LA good yet.
Taking a step.
You say that again?
Sebas has taken a step for you.
I mean,
you said Baird has taken a step back.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, we've only had 2 games, 1, but 2. Like, I'm gonna have faith in the front office. If you're gonna spend $7 million on a player, I'm hoping that there's something there that I don't know, that the ignorant fan doesn't know. that made him worth that 7 million. So I'm hoping that we just haven't seen it yet.
I mean, we haven't seen it in Brazil. We haven't seen it here. I mean, it's. I think with Corey, at least we see what he can do in the MLS. He was Rookie of the Year one year, then he goes on for a 10-goal scoring with us. So, like, I would rather take that than a guy who did score 13 goals for a bottom seller team.
I mean, keep in mind, if we could get another striker, I'm all for that too. But if I'm comparing Barrett and Sebas, I'm going to go Sebas.
I disagree. I think for this team right now, that's what we need. All right, there, Shay, hit the last one.
Ball in or ball out?
Is Glenn Davis correct when he says Houston's biggest soccer fan base is the Tigres?
Yeah, so I'm ball in on that. I actually tweeted or quote tweeted that Tigres are huge in Houston. They're huge in Mexico. I think just how things have gone in the last decade or so, I think they're going to overtake Chivas as the second most popular team in Mexico. We might get a lot of crap about that. People might not agree with me, but like where I live, and at least in the border of Texas, Tigres are huge. They're known to have the best fans in Mexico, and they're winning. They're winning. They're fun to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if again if they're up there with America as like the most popular team in Mexico. But as far as Houston, I think it's the most popular team. Liga MX is the most popular league in the U.S. It's the most watched league in the U.S. And you just, because of the proximity of the two cities, you have a lot of folks from Monterrey and you have a lot of Tigres fans. I think it's the most popular team in Houston.
I think the sad answer is that is correct. They are the most popular team here in Houston, and the Dynamo should take that as a serious shot, because what's funny is if you ask the average American Texan Astros Rockets fan, hey, who are the Tigres? They would be like, you mean Detroit Tigers? Like, they would have no idea probably, right? And that's sad that a lot of the casual fan probably couldn't name a Liga MX team, but they might have heard of the Dynamo or they've been to a game and they're not a real fan of that. Like, it's frustrating that we're such a backseat here. And in honesty, if you had to rank where the Dynamo rank in Houston as a top fan base, maybe top 3, maybe. Like that's tough to say, because you're right. I bet Tigres, Chivas, and then I bet it's a lot of other EPL teams that are ahead of us too. And then you get to Barca, Real Madrid before Dynamo even crack it in their own city. I just, it's heartbreaking to realize that that's probably a real statement that Glenn made.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't get too upset about it, because to me, I just see potential. And it's like we talked about, I want to say it was like a month ago when the Dynamo didn't allow the parents to watch their kids training. Like that's what I was alluding to. When you have to work with that community, you have to get people emotionally invested in your team. Like when I worked in the USL, we would always tell folks, like, we're not trying to be your favorite team. We just want to be your local team. Those Tigres fans can still be Tigres fans, and they can still be season ticket holders for the Dynamo. Like, this is home for them. So I see potential in there, but it is frustrating because it's already. I just think the growth has been much slower than what it should be. We've been here since 2006. I think we've taken steps back more than we have forward. With Big Daddy Ted taking over, we're getting better, but that decade or so before that, we took a lot of steps back, where those Tigres fans, their fandom probably got even bigger for Tigres rather than coming towards the MLS with Houston. So there's potential. You just got to do things the right way.
I like leaving it on the optimism there. I think you're exactly right. There's potential. Let's continue to grow. And how we do that is by beating Frisco's ass next weekend.
Yeah, exactly. And Tigres fans, if you're going to take anything from this episode, just take that. We don't want to be your Tigres. We don't want to be your favorite team. We just want to be your local team. And that's okay.
Damn right. We'll take it to him in the ring. Hey.
So I used my perks for that Messi Tigres match. I'm curious to how many Dynamo fans will be there, and if they're going to celebrate the MLS side team or they're going to celebrate Tigres to beat the MLS side.
Sounds like you got a good assignment as a man on the street when you get there.
I was thinking about it. I mean, I'll admit on my end, I'm hoping Tigres take it to Messi. I'm not loyal to the league. I don't want Messi
Same.
collecting all the trophies.
No, if Messi was with like another team, I'd be cheering for them. But the fact that it's Inter Miami versus Tigres, I'm hoping Tigres buries them. Like just absolutely embarrasses them.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Had it been like not even with another team, had it been Messi right when he got to Miami, that's one thing. But after all the crap they've pulled since he's gotten there, yeah, exactly. I want them to burn.
Man, just bury them 5-0. I want it to be over before halftime.
Yeah, same. So,
but I can't wait for on this. Let's go.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be fun. But alrighty, Brandon, we're getting to that ending time post here for this week's episode. I'm Jamal,
and I'm Brandon, and this is The Way We Ball.